Good morning or good afternoon, Hawks. It's good to see you guys again. Okay, well, for you to see me again, I missed you all so much, but I'm thrilled that we have this opportunity to learn and create together. We're not going to stop learning. We're not going to stop creating. It's all about practice. So let's begin with a breathing exercise. I'm going to choose box breathing for our first session today. Please breathe with me. Breathe in, 2, 3, out, 2, 3, 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 in, 2, 3, out, 2, 3. Well then let's go ahead and get started. This is the hand-building clay lesson geared towards pre-K and kinder students. For our pre-K students, your IB connection is how we express ourselves. You are learning about how people around the world live in unique ways. For the kinder IB connection, you are working on where we are in place and time. You are learning that comparing and classifying helps us make important connections. We're having a shared learning target today. Both grades, this is your learning statement. Today I am learning to find similarities and differences in artworks. Today I am learning to find similarities and differences in artworks. The first art piece we're going to look at today is from a country in Africa. I believe it's pronounced Burkina Faso. Africa is here on a globe. So if you have a globe at home, take a moment to try to find Africa. And Burkina Faso is in West Africa, and it's this country right here. We're going to look at this image of an artist who is making some clay pots. She is currently firing them. So if you look here, you can see this fireplace, and she's using a tool to manage the pots in the fire. And here are some of her finished works. The artist is in the process of firing hand-built pots so that the clay hardens. If she didn't fire the clay, it wouldn't hold the way that pots and vases around your house would hold. Take a moment to think about what you see in this image. What does it make you think? What does it make you wonder? The second artwork we're looking at comes from Greece. Greece is actually so we were looking at Africa on the globe earlier. Greece is so Burkina is over here. We were looking at Africa earlier on the globe, and here's where we were. But Greece is just a little bit up from Africa, and it is a bit smaller, about the same size as the country we were looking at before. Here's what it looks like up close. It has all these little islands. This pot that is from Greece that we're talking about was also made by hand. But there are more specific details on the outside of this pot. Take a moment to think about what you see in this image. What does it make you think? What does it make you wonder? Now look at these two hand-built pots next to each other. What is the same? Pause and think about that now. After you've thought about what is the similar between these two pots, now I want you to think about what is different. Pause and think about that now. My final question to you is, why do you think the artist made them differently? The artists who made these pots were from two different countries. What do you think made them have these differences? Why did the artist choose to paint on details here? Why did the artist choose to have this line here? Do you have any predictions? Did you notice that the Greek pot on the left had more decoration on the outside? The Greek artists would use painting on pots to tell stories like a book. They wanted to have a lot of details to tell their story. So this pot here, is this the pot with more details? This is the pot from Greece. This pot is trying to tell a story. The Burkina Faso pot was made to store and carry food and water. They were more worried about what the pot would hold instead of what it looked like on the outside. Even though they were both making pots, they were from different parts of the world and had different needs. If you made a pot, would it be more decorated? Or would you focus more on what the pot could hold? Now it is time to create. Here's the list of materials needed. If you want to do the sculpture activity for this video, you will need Play-Doh or any other clay substitute for the art video challenge. If you do not have a clay substitute at home, I have a drawing handout that all you need is a drawing tool and that handout for the drawing substitute lesson. It is covering the same exact material, you're just drawing your ideas instead of using Play-Doh. And I want to make a quick disclaimer. All of the art lessons are to your discretion. Do as much as you're comfortable with. These activities are learning enrichment activities to give you a break from your screen and to learn creatively. So do all the work that you are comfortable doing. We are going to be practicing how to make your own pot by hand, like the artists that we were looking at before. This is called hand building. Hand building is when you make a pot only with your hands, not by having it on a wheel. There are 3 ways to do hand buildings that I'm going to show you in a video. There's the pinch pot, there is the coil pot, and there is the slab pot. If you would like to pause the video and talk about how these 3 images are different, that would be awesome. First, we're going to start with the pinch pot. So you really don't need the whole thing of Play-Doh. I'm only going to start with half of it. If this was real clay, we'd have to worry about something called air bubbles. If an air bubble was in your final piece of clay and we tried to fire it, like the artist in the Burkina Faso image, the air bubbles would get so hot and the air would pop and it would break your piece. So anytime we work with clay, it's important to knead the clay. Usually I'll have this done for you, but if you were working with clay, that would be something you would need to do. The next step is you're going to take your clay and you're going to roll it into a sphere. Who can tell me what a sphere is? A sphere is like a circle, which is a 2D shape, but a sphere is a circle that's a 3D shape. It's going to be like a baseball, it's going to be like a globe. A sphere is a 3D circle, a 3-dimensional circle. Now, does it have to be perfectly a sphere? No, it doesn't have to be perfect, but what we're going to use with our sphere is we're going to use 3 fingers. We're going to use these 2 fingers like a bunny ears, and we're going to use our thumb like a thumbs up. So hold up your bunny ears and your thumb, and what you're going to do is you're going to stick your thumb in halfway. You're going to take your bunny ears, and you are going to pinch, and you're going to spin your sphere as you pinch so that it looks kind of like a bowl. Pinch, pinch, pinch. You want to make sure it doesn't get too thin at the bottom, and you want to try to make sure it's not too thick at the top. Because if it gets too thin, I might poke a hole in it. Let me try again. Sometimes teachers make mistakes too, huh? We're rolling our sphere, and I'll show you one more time. Take your thumb and stick it halfway in your sphere. Take your bunny ear fingers, and pinch and spin. Pinch and spin. And that is going to make your pinch pot. The pot we just finished creating is a pinch pot. Next, we are going to make, oh, were you peeking? Hey, Goose. We are going to make a coil pot. So, maybe only one half of the clay again, or the Play-Doh again. And what you're going to do, I want you to imagine a snake slithering around, or maybe a worm. And what we're going to do is we're going to make our own snake. Can you do it without me even showing you how? Take a piece of your clay, and you're going to roll it on the table, or roll it between your hands like you're trying to warm up your hands, to make something called a coil. And it's going to look something like this. Whoops! It's a little slippery. It kind of looks like a snake or a worm, doesn't it? So you're going to take this coil. You're going to take your clay snake, and you're going to try to make sure it looks even. You want to make sure it looks even as possible. And then what you're going to do is you're going to take your coil, and you're going to roll it like a spiral. Usually with clay, we would have to do something called slip and score, where we would make little dots in the clay, but because this is Play-Doh, we can skip that step today. But you are going to roll it and smush it so it kind of looks like a swirl. Can you see the swirl? Oh, Mrs. Brothers is not the best YouTube star. There we go. Okay, so you have your swirl, and we're gonna make more little snakes. I mean coils. And we're gonna roll, 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 roll. We wanna make this one a really long coil, okay? Do your best. Try to make sure it doesn't get too thin. Do you see how it's really thin at that one part and really thick at the other part? I wanna make it as even as possible. Okay, I'm gonna take my little swirl. I'm gonna take my clay, and I'm gonna try to make a circle and attach it. Once again, if this was real clay, we would take a tool to score it and add some slip, but I'll teach you all about that next year where we're using clay instead of Play-Doh. And you're going to make a circle, and you're going to attach it to your spiral. Do you see how there's two layers? Okay, you may want to smush it down a little bit so it stays. And I'm going to make another coil. If you want to make a lot of coils and then build it, that is a strategy you could try. Okay, I've got another coil, and I'm going to make another layer. And then I'm going to make another layer. And I can make this pot as tall as I want to. How tall can you make your coil pot? You see how it kind of looks like a bowl? That is a coil pot. Now, if you really, really wanted to, you could smush the coils and try to blend them together, but then it's going to look a lot like our pinch pot. So that's up to you. This is for you to practice and experiment and try building pots with your hands. The pot that we just finished creating is the coil pot. Okay, we are now ready for the last version of hand building. This is called a slab pot. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be making something called a slab. So, there's a few ways to do this. I'm going to show you 3. Are you ready? Way number 1. If your family members love to bake, you might have one of these in your house. If you have a roller in your house, Ask your parent or guardian permission to use it before you grab it. And you can roll out your Play-Doh and make it super flat. You want to try to be sure that it is flat and even. No big bumps, just flattened. If your parent says, that's for baking, totally fair. That is what this tool is for. And we want to try to use the right tools for the right job. Maybe you can compromise with your parents and use, what is this? A toilet paper roll? Why not? We're being innovative and we're working with the tools we have. So let me smush this and see if we can get the toilet paper roll to work. All right, so I've got my Play-Doh and maybe we can, well, my toilet paper roll isn't working as well as I'd like it to. Oh, here we go. You just gotta be creative. Thank goodness we're all artists and we're all very creative. And look at that. It's flattened like a pancake, just like we needed. Or, and I think some of you are gonna like this last way to do it, you can take your clay and you can just smush it with your hands. It's probably the easiest one. Maybe I should have started with that one. Smush it, smush it, smush it, but you want to make sure it's as even and flat as possible. Capiche? Okay. Once your clay or Play-Doh or Model Magic or whatever you're using is flat, you want to take a tool. Maybe you could use a pen or a pencil. And what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to make a square, or yes, a square or a rectangle or whatever shape you want the bottom of your pot to be. Maybe you want your pot to look like a box, so maybe you want to have the parts of the pot be round. So what you would do is you would have this. This is a slab. It's going to be like a flat rectangle or flat shape that you cut out. So what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to make more slabs. Luckily I have more Play-Doh. And maybe I want to flatten out this piece and make another slab. And for this one, I'm going to make another rectangle. Excuse you. Okay, so I've got 2 slab rectangles here. What I think I want to do is I want to take this one and I want to make it into a cylinder by closing in the ends. Smush, smush, smush. This is where we would slip and score if we were using real clay. Okay, and we're going to take our cylinder, and if this was real clay, we would slip and score, and we're going to smush it onto the bottom of this one. Kind of looks like a hat. And what you can do now is you can take your cutting tool or pencil or pen and you're going to cut out a circle at the bottom. Are you ready? Let's take away the piece of slab. If you want, you can smush it so it stays. And look at this. There's a bottom to it now. This kind of reminds me of a cup more so than a bowl, but let's see what yours turns out like. The pot that we just finished creating is the slab pot. We made 3 types of hand building pots. We made a pinch pot, we made a coil pot, remember those snakes or those worms, and we made a slab pot. So it was made out of those flat rectangles. Did you guys notice? I used blue, red, and yellow. What are those 3 colors? Are they primary colors? How fun. Which hand building pot was your favorite? Was it the pinch pot, the coil pot, or the slab pot? You don't need to let these dry. You can go ahead and smush them and use the clay for something else later. This was just a chance for you to practice these hand building techniques so that when we return to school, maybe we can make some with clay that will last a very long time. I hope you guys had so much fun building pots with me. During our lesson today, pre-K, you guys were thinking about how we express ourselves. People around the world live in unique ways. We looked at a pot from Greece and a pot from a country in West Africa named Burkina Faso. Think about those two pots. They look so different, and they were from two different places. Yes, they were. And they were from two different places, so the people needed different things from their pots. How do you use pots or bowls at home? Do you use them to tell stories? Or do you use bowls to hold something? Maybe go on a scavenger hunt and see how many bowls you can find holding different things in your home. In kindergarten, you were talking about where we are in place and time. Comparing and classifying helps us make important connections. So when we were making those 3 different pots from hand building, compare them. What was different about those 3 pots? Which one was your favorite? Which one do you think made the best pot? I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and I hope you learned so much. Remember, we love you, we miss you, and we know you're doing such a good job as IB scholars to learn from home. I'll see you next Wednesday. P.S. Parents, if your child wants to learn more, look in the description box below. I have linked a video of a Burkina Faso artist building a pot from hand. If your artist would like to watch this video, I've got a link in the description below. Thank you so much for making time to work with your student today.